What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I will be making a video talking about the best striker in each respective division. As we all know, there's 8 men's divisions, flyweight, 2 heavyweight, and I will be talking about the best striker in each one of those. Striking technique can come in multiple different ways. It can come from speed, it can come from strength, it can come from IQ. So what we're going to kind of do is break down the best striker in each division for the UFC. As we all know that there's so many amazing strikers in the UFC who aren't even going to be able to make this list, sadly. But truly, I want to take the top striker in each category, and it's going to be kind of subjective because there's going to be a lot of division where there's more than one striker who is quote unquote or could be considered the best. But I want to take that person, talk why I think that they're the best striker, and just say of why in the organization right now these guys could do really good things if they use their effective striking in the proper way. But if you guys enjoyed the UFC content, please have a like, comment, and subscribe. This is the best way to help the channel grow. And while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. But without further ado, let's jump right into the episode of Fight Season MMA, talking about the best striker in each UFC division. Okay, starting off with the UFC Flyweight division, the best striker right now in the Flyweight division, in my opinion, I am going to say is actually Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval has a very good striking game attached with him, and the only reason I'm saying Royval over Moreno is Royval does have that win over Moreno in 2024. And I was very, very set on picking Moreno, but I thought about that win and I said Royval kind of went in there, outstruck him in different categories, and he looked really good on the feet against Topuria. Brandon Royval has a great strategy to be able to go in there and throw a lot of output while being able to switch up a lot of different combinations. And that's something he does incredibly well and really throws off a lot of his opponents when he's going in there inside the octagon. Topuria, one of the best upcoming prospects, really was thrown by Brandon Royval going in there and throwing all types of strikes right into the fight that he had no idea coming from. And two, Brandon Royval has a really good gas tank, and that only helps his striking to be elevated that much more. Ultimately, I think that there's a couple guys in the UFC flyweight division. I also think that Steve Erceg could be up there, Kai Kara France, Brandon Moreno, of course, but I'm going to pick Brandon Royval. I think he's right now on a collision course for the UFC title. I don't know if he can beat Pantoja because Brandon Royval's way to win would be in the striking category, and Pantoja just has an iron chin. But right now inside the UFC flyweight division, I think Brandon Royval's got the best striking. Okay, so here in the Bantamweight division, I got to say the best striker currently is Umar Nurmagomedov, and I want to highlight why I have him over Sean O'Malley. I think in his last fight against someone like Merab Dvalishvili, Sean O'Malley kind of got exposed in the striking department to where really good strikers can outstrike grapplers, they can really control distance, and Sean O'Malley just looked absolutely lost in there with Merab. He really, in my opinion, didn't win a single round or didn't win any part of the fight except that last minute where he hit Merab with that teep kick, and that was the only positive thing in that fight for Sean O'Malley. And I think that they're having Umar Nurmagomedov being a more complete striker, coming from that Taekwondo background, beating someone like Corey Sandhagen in the striking department was a very impressive win in my book. I really do think that Umar Nurmagomedov is kind of like the next step of MMA. He's really developing his striking as well as developing that Sambo heavy style. And I think that that's something that is truly amazing to see, considering that Umar, we all know he's grinding the Sambo and the wrestling over there in Dagestan, but he is growing his striking game to become incredibly well-rounded, which a lot of these bantamweights are going to have trouble with, as we saw that Corey Sandhagen fight. Sandhagen looked really good. Now, he might not have stepped on the gas as much as he needed to, but Umar was outstriking one of the best strikers, if not the best striker inside the UFC, in my opinion, in Sandhagen. So I gotta put Umar at number 1 best striker inside the bantamweight division. In the 145-pound division, featherweight, I got Mr. Ilia Topuria. All I got to say is Ilia Topuria, 2 knockouts over the 2 featherweight goats in his last 2 fights. Max Holloway hit him with a left hook to send him down to the ground, being the first person to ever knock out Max Holloway. And then Alexander Volkanovski, on their other hand, he absolutely crammed him with a left overhand, knocking him down and unconscious immediately. And Volk, as we all know, doesn't have the best chin, so that's kind of a write-off, but doing that to Holloway was incredibly impressive. Ilia Topuria's got one of the best pocket boxing styles inside the UFC right now, and he is genuinely a one-of-a-kind fighter. Topuria probably has some of the highest striking IQ as well. He knows when to throw his shots. He knows where to throw his shots. He ultimately is just the best striker right now, maybe inside the UFC. It's either him, Islam Makhachev, Alex Pereira, someone like that to say that they're the best striker in the organization. But genuinely, I do think that Ilia Topuria is the next generation of fighter. He's going out there to do so many different things, and I think that striking is at the forefront, and that's why he's got to be the best striker of the 145-pound division. In the 155-pound division, I have Islam Makhachev as the best striker. And let me hear me out. I think that Islam's technical striking, and I think the biggest thing he has is he's got the IQ to really throw anything that he wants out there. That fight with Volkanovski the second time, I know a lot of people call it an asterisk because Volk took the fight on 10 days' notice. No matter how in shape you are, you can last more than a round. And Islam Makhachev found out Alexander Volkanovski's weakness. He's got really bad head kick protection. He kind of throws one arm up there, which isn't that good. And guess what? Volkanovski had to take Islam Makhachev's head kick with one arm. As we all know, that will never work. Islam knocked out Volk in that fight. As we all know, in that Charles Oliveira fight, he knocked him down, I think, with a left hook before going to the arm triangle choke. Islam is so intelligent. He's one of the most underrated strikers on the feet. The one fight that really allowed me to understand how good Islam is in the striking department is that fight against Dustin Poirier. In that fight against Poirier, Islam was doing better than Poirier in pretty much almost every single exchange on the feet. And that was something that was incredible to see, because you think of Islam as just a Dagestani wrestling guy. And truly, that is not the case, considering how good Islam is in every facet of the game. He went out there and outstruck Poirier. He went out there and outstruck Oliveira. He probably went out there and maybe outstruck Volkanovski in the first fight. That might be saying a little bit too much, but ultimately, I gotta say that Islam Makhachev is the best striker in the UFC lightweight division. Now at the UFC welterweight division, this is a very hard prediction to pick. I'm really thinking about three strikers in that division. I'm thinking about Jack Della Maddalena, thinking about Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I'm thinking about Ian Machado Gary. Who would be the best striker out of the three of those? I'm actually going to lead to Jack Della Maddalena. I think that Ian Gary has his range and his lankiness is a very good striker, but even then I would say someone like Michael Venom Page is better than him. Shavkat is a very good striker, but as of late, he's really been using that grappling to swarm opponents, and that leaves us with Jack Della Maddalena. One of the crispest boxers inside the UFC, always knows where to put his hands whenever he needs to, and genuinely, he is one of the best fighters currently in the organization because he has that really high IQ that I always preach about in every single one of my strikers. And when I'm breaking down a striker and whatnot, what makes them so good and what really can elevate you is having that brain attached to yourself. Shavkat Rakhmonov does have that, but he kind of doesn't use it all the time, and he might not be the smartest in that category, whereas Jack Della Maddalena is always smart, always ranging, always doing everything correct in every single thing. And genuinely, I would pick Jack Della Maddalena to be one of the best strikers in that UFC welterweight division, even someone who I didn't mention over Leon Edwards, who kind of is just a point fighter, whereas Jack Della Maddalena is a finisher, and that's kind of the reason I have him above him as well. Ultimately, Jack Della Maddalena is one of the best UFC strikers on the planet. A lot of you guys might not think of that, but please go watch some Jack Della Maddalena so you guys can understand how technical, how sound he is, and of just how mechanically good he is inside the UFC striking department. In the UFC middleweight division, this might be the hardest division right now to confirm who the best striker is. I'm looking at a couple guys: Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland, possibly even Nasruddin Imavov, Caio Borralho, and even Dricus du Plessis we can throw in that category. I'm going to eliminate Borralho and Imavov. I think they're a little bit too inexperienced. But then I look at these other three, and they've all fought each other, and I think that's the easiest way to determine this. And ultimately, I'm going to go with Sean Strickland being the best striker. I look in the fight with Dricus du Plessis, and Sean Strickland was outlanding Dricus on the feet, which truly allowed me to see that he was a better striker than Dricus in that category. Now, in both ways, we can see that Sean Strickland outlanded Adesanya massively, as well as Dricus du Plessis was competing with Adesanya on the feet as well. So I think Sean Strickland having that very tight Philly shell, being one of the best defenders in the striking department, as well as being able to have those lightning fast jabs, really good reflexes, and really good brain to kind of understand what he wants to do in the fight. He might not be the flashiest style, he might not have the most techniques and moves, but what he does have is a very good boxing style to go in there and really destroy his opponents. That Dricus du Plessis fight, his nose was absolutely encased in blood because of the jabs coming in his direction. he knocked down Israel Adesanya in that fight at UFC 293 in a very interesting fight, considering that everyone thought Adesanya was going to outstrike Strickland, but Strickland took his time and went in there and outstruck one of the best strikers in UFC history. Sean Strickland might not have the greatest power or full set arsenal of UFC striking skills, but he's definitely got the technique, and he's very cerebral with all of his strikes that he uses, and that's why I'm going to put him as the best middleweight striker. Best UFC light heavyweight striker, it's going to come with no surprise. I'm going to go with Alex Poatan Pereira. Alex Pereira is knocking out every single person in his path. His last fight, Khalil Roundtree Jr., 4th round TKO with body shot. Second to last fight, UFC 303, Yuri Prochazka head kick KO into TKO. UFC 300, Jamal Hill left shovel hook KO. UFC 295, elbow KO. He is just so good inside that UFC heavyweight division. He's probably the best striker the UFC has ever seen, considering that he has that nuclear power to go in there and annihilate any single person who comes back in his direction. Pereira has knocked out the likes of Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland, Yuri Prochazka twice, Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree Jr. Those are some incredible names. Those are some incredible UFC champions and title challengers even. And genuinely, I do think that Alex Pereira's his title reign in the UFC might not be the best in terms of his full around skill set. But when you just talk about fun, his striking has been put on display so much, especially with that fight with Khalil Roundtree Jr. His striking looked amazing. He looked like prime Anderson Silva in that 4th round. The Yuri Prochazka fight, he apparently watched film on Yuri warming up to then land that left head kick. Jamal Hill, he closed the gap with that weird stoppage to ultimately get the KO. Alex Pereira is probably the most devastating striker in UFC history. Whenever he lands, you go night-night, and that is something incredible to see. And genuinely, Alex Pereira might be the best striker in UFC history, but he's definitely the best striker inside the light heavyweight division right now. Now in the heavyweight division, I'm going to say it's Tom Aspinall. It could be John Jones, and it could be Cyril Gane. I'm going to say it is Tom Aspinall, though, because I think Tom Aspinall has the combination of the striking prowess with the speed and the feet as well as the power. Not saying that Jones and Gane don't have that type of power, but I think that his speed in Aspinall has really been able to go in and catch so many different opponents off guard, especially in that Sergey Pavlovich fight. He had no idea what was coming back at him in that direction when he got bonked on the head and knocked out ultimately in 1 minute and 7 seconds. Curtis Blaydes, on the other hand, got dropped by a jab, a very strong, stiff jab right to the face, got dropped and ultimately finished in 1 minute flat. Marcin Tybura got finished by his striking. Genuinely, Tom Aspinall is probably the most devastating striker in the UFC right now, considering he's got the shortest average fight time in the organization. I just look at that combination of speed for a heavyweight, really having the speed of a light or a welterweight, and genuinely having that power of a genuine heavyweight. I think that Aspinall has a very bright career in his future, and I know he's going to go out there to do so many amazing things, especially piggybacking on that incredible striking ability. He's very smart in the striking game. He knows when to engage. He knows when to not engage. The only thing that a little bit scares me is that striking defense, keeping his chin a little bit in the air. But if we're just looking at offense, he is probably easily the best striker inside the UFC heavyweight division. Gane doesn't have quite the power. He might have the speed and footwork, but I'm still taking Aspinall's kind of direct approach over that. And John Jones has got great body kicks. That back kick finish against Stipe Miocic was crazy, but I don't think Jones has the speed of Aspinall in that regards. Tom Aspinall, the best UFC heavyweight striker currently. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please let me know what you think down below in the comment section if you think that these should be the respective best strikers in each division. Flyweight, we have Brandon Royval. Bantamweight, we have Umar Nurmagomedov. Featherweight, we have Ilia Topuria. Lightweight, I have Islam Makhachev. Welterweight, I have Jack Della Maddalena. Middleweight, I have Sean Strickland. Light heavyweight, I have Alex Poatan Pereira. And heavyweight, I have Tom Aspinall. I think that these guys are going to really be able to excel inside their UFC division with their striking ability. As I kind of mentioned, there is a couple other fighters who definitely could have been mentioned and headlined this list, like Israel Adesanya, like guys like Alexander Volkanovski, Sean O'Malley even, Brandon Moreno. There's a lot lot of guys who could have been nominated for these spots, but I genuinely think that there was a lot of good strikers inside the organization. They're very technical in all their games, and if you are in the UFC and you are a striker, you gotta be elite at these skills, and the guys that I picked, I just believe are the elite of the elite. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoy the UFC content, and while you're down there, please turn on the post notifications, just so you guys are always notified about UFC content releasing every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon with more UFC content and news.